Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Campers and Vans Getting Coffee. I'm Travis DeRose, and for this episode, I have Aubry and Christian join me. They are on Instagram as the Minimal Millennials, so that's MNML Millennials. You can check them out and check out all their stuff. They have a Sprinter van that they bought and converted themselves about a year ago. We get into the build, the importance of picking the correct van. And these Aubry and Christian are just super honest, and they just tell it like it is. They say how they live their life and why they do things their way and how they're able to make a living on the road and all this stuff. So it's a very good interview. We get super deep into that stuff. So without further ado, here is Aubry and Christian. All right. Hello. I am here with Aubry and Christian. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being on here.
Of course, we're stoked, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So cool. Let's just start off. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourselves, about each of you guys?
Yeah, so I grew up on the West Coast, loved the mountains, loved the beach, loved just kind of being outside, and Christian grew up Texas boy.
Yeah, I'm a Texas boy, baby. So, yeah, I'm from Austin, Texas. Aubry's from L.A. Mm-hmm. And when we met each other, we were both in college. We met basically through school and through a company we were working for, and we were working online. So I think it's kind of been in our blood a little bit to be traveling, for quite a while, even before we were in a relationship. And then as we got to know each other and as we dated, we were long distance. So we would travel for our dating. And this was pre-van life, but it was like the beginnings of travel, right? Like before the van was a part of it. And I was living on the East Coast, I lived in D.C., and Aubry lived in L.A., which is like almost as far apart as you can get and be in America, So what we would do is we would, meet up in Chicago. We would meet up in like cities that were sort of in the middle of us for little dates. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun. And I think it kind of set this precedent in our relationship that it was like that was one of the things that we valued, and it was one of the hobbies we wanted to pursue together.
Wanted to explore together.
Yeah, exactly. So did that for, I don't know, we lasted like 8 months.
Yeah. So then we both moved to Texas.
Yeah.
So we lived there, and then that's kind of where we decided to buy a van and convert it. I personally had no idea that other people did that.
Yeah, me either.
I thought that I'd come up with the idea. And so we just kind of were getting sick of our 9-to-5s and just wanted to do a little bit more than go to work every day. Didn't really know, why we were stockpiling the money that we were making if we were just going to kind of live in our fancy apartment and kind of live the same day over and over. So we both kind of looked at each other one day and said, hey, you want to buy a van and travel the country? And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so 2 weeks later, we bought a van and kind of never looked back. We found somebody in Austin who had built vans before. He's on Instagram, Chewy the Van Again, and he builds vans now pretty much for a living.
Yeah, he's a good buddy of ours.
And so he helped us build our van, and since June, we've been living in it, and we've been traveling pretty much ever since. So,
not pretty much. We've been traveling every day ever since.
Wow, man, killer. So this was it just last June, so just like 6 months ago or so?
Well, we bought the van over a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I was working a pretty corporate job. Aubry was working remote already. She has for like 4 years. So she was all set and ready to roll. She's like, she would have done this 3 years ago if I would have been down. But I had to kind of wrap up what I was doing. So we bought the van, we had it, we were dealing with some engine problems, and we were fixing it and converting it. And we had maybe like a 5-month process of conversion and, just kind of having fun with it. And then May of this year, so I don't know, like 7 months ago, is when the van was finally done. And that's when we were starting to really take it out for weekend trips. And then June of this year, that's when we, moved out of our apartment, moved every one of our possessions in, sold anything that didn't fit. So June was kind of the when we took the leap, and got rid of everything else that wasn't coming with us.
Right. I see. Cool. So did you have to end up quitting your job, Christian, or were you able to kind of transition into a remote kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Like I wasn't able to keep the capacity I was working. So we did make a huge a salary sacrifice by doing this. But fortunately, I built up some pretty good rapport at the company, and I got a contracting gig that has ended up being an awesome thing. So, we're doing YouTube, and that's a lot of our energy and some of our finances coming in, but not much. And mostly I still work and Aubry still works. I mean, we have, I guess you could, not really normal jobs, but we have jobs like any other person, and we still work. I mean, I just came off a call for the job right before this call, so we're still normal people in that respect. And yeah, we're both still working for now. Yeah.
Right. Cool. So, I mean, so what do you guys do if you're allowed to, share what you guys, what your jobs are?
Yeah, so we work for an ed tech company. So basically, our company just makes it really inexpensive and a lot easier to get your kind of
your
core credits, and then we just make sure you can transfer it to your school of choice. So anyway, so I do social media marketing for them, and my entire department at the company is remote. So my boss is in Virginia, and all my coworkers are all over the place. So that's my job. And then Christian works in sales.
Yeah. So now it's more of, sales operations, things like that on the road. But Aubry's job is, she kind of created it for herself. So she's a little bit of I don't know, that's kind of a note on remote work. I think remote work is evolving so much right now, and it's so much on the individual to create your own remote job, honestly.
And to build trust, I think, with the company.
Yeah, definitely. But even, I mean, you didn't even build trust. You just built your job. So like Aubry's job is really unique in that she does graphic design and she does marketing and web design and puts on events and just like does sales. I mean, she does everything, because you've got to have a remote job. You've got to make yourself, extremely valuable and uniquely valuable. And Aubry has done that. And then for me, it was a little bit of a different route of, I had a more traditional sales job and worked there long enough to get enough rapport to sort of transition that to the road. But it's, we both took a little bit different routes of getting here, I would say. But yeah, a lot of our jobs are, just sales, marketing, social media, that kind of stuff.
It's kind of unique because we have a YouTube channel where we get a lot of like younger people who really want to live in a van and travel full time, and they ask us kind of, how did you land these dream jobs, quote unquote, and we've actually made a whole video about it, just kind of working your tails off and getting down to business and building trust with your company kind of goes a long way. And I feel like so many jobs, especially middle-class jobs, are just becoming more, the ability is growing to work remotely. So it's kind of unique. Like a lot of people we know who live in vans, who travel full-time, will have, maybe their own company or do freelance work or something like that. We're actually on salary. Like we actually get a paycheck from a company, but it's possible, in our opinions, to get that. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. So, how do you guys deal with, like, are you working full time? Are you guys working 40-hour weeks?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, Aubry is right now. I mean, my job's all over the place, man. This week I'm working 40 hours, but some weeks I work 5. So it's a little bit all over the place.
Wow. So you guys, and then you obviously need internet access for your jobs all the time. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, so right before we moved into the van, Verizon reopened their unlimited option, and so we jumped on that.
Nice.
So we just have unlimited data. We just do hotspots on our phone, but then we also we actually love being in the city. I think that's pretty unique to van lifers. A lot of van lifers spend like most of their time in national parks and camping and stuff like that. We actually do a lot of stealth camping in cities. And we just love exploring cities, talking to people, exploring new cultures. And one of the ways that we do that is coffee shops. So we love going to coffee shops, talking to the baristas, kind of getting the vibe of the city. So we actually work most of the time in coffee shops, and that kind of just fits into our lifestyle, the things that we like to do anyways. So.
Yeah. And it's like, we're not 100, we're probably like 2/3 of the time in some sort of civilization and 1/3 of the time not, right? So the phone plan we're on works out really well. And then also with like the work thing, I mean, most of the time we're not working, right? I mean, you think 40 hours is a ton of time, but it's a ton of time in a traditional job sense of where you have to like wake up and prepare for work and drive to work and have your lunch break, all that stuff. If you fit 40 hours wherever you want into a week or 20 hours wherever you want a week, it's like a blip, So most of is not doing work. It's just, man, I'm telling you, the whole traditional job traditional job market, it makes no sense when it comes to time allocation. It makes absolutely none. It's BS.
Right.
The loser is the employee. They're the ones that lose not only the best 8 hours of their life every day, but also another 4 hours either getting ready for the job or recovering from the job. And for me, that's why I left my job. I was working a 60-hour-a-week job that was just incredibly emotionally exhausting. I would be like a zombie when I came home. So the difference of being out on the road is it's so invigorating, and the people we meet are so incredible that in some weeks, to be honest, some weeks we only work 10 to 15, 20 hours, Some weeks we work 60, 70, 80 because we're putting time into YouTube. But it's a natural cycle. It's like we work when we have work to do, and when we don't, we're doing things we love. We're going on hikes. We're spending time with people. We're seeing national parks. It's much more of a natural way of things, I would say, and that it's not working 40 hours for the sake of 40 hours or any ridiculousness like that. It's when there's work to do, let's crack down. Let's go to a city. Let's see the people we want to see. When there's not, let's go out and let's adventure. But either way, we're emotionally energized and we're connected as people. It's just a much more healthy way to live, I think.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And just how you can sort of make your own schedule is just so nice, Incredible. So let's say this might kind of be a weird question, but so someone's looking to do this or trying to figure out how they can work remotely and make a living. Would you sort of recommend that they try to hook up with a company like you guys have where you can then try to figure out a remote working situation, or would you recommend they kind of go an entrepreneurial route and kind of get their own thing going?
Yeah. Well, there's two sides of this. First of all, obviously we're not experts, right?
Right.
We have plenty of thoughts on it, but I think the main thing with the internet as it is it's like the Wild West right now. Everything that just happened just a couple of days ago with how it's going to be regulated and not, it's crazy, right? No one has figured out the internet. No one has figured out remote work. So that's the first most important thing to remember is there's not a right way to do it. You're going to have to create it for yourself. So anyone that comes along and says, oh, you've got to be an entrepreneur and do all these things with social media and you'll make money no, it's like none of that is valuable. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be different for every person. So we were really fortunate to be in with a company like we were, but we could have never planned that, right? We could have never said, okay, we want to go find the right company. The merit education looks like the right one. Let's get in with the right people. No, man, it was all happenstance. So I don't think that our situation is necessarily replicable. That being said, I think anyone could get as good of a gig as us. They would just need to capitalize on the people and the opportunities in their lives. And I think that it's very underrated to go into companies and to create your own positions there because every company has needs to fill. So I think there's a huge market for that people neglect because being an entrepreneur has a much better sex appeal, right? Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. So I think there's a big window for that. But at the same time, to tell you a little bit about what we're doing now, these jobs that we're not going to have them forever. And we have other revenue streams. And once you kind of get out on the road and you're willing to take risk, if you're a hard worker, if you're a hustler, there's a million ways to make money, there really are. And there's a million ways to make it in ways that you like and ways that you feel like benefits other people. So we have all these other revenue streams, not because we're making a ton of money right now, but because there's if you just meet the right people and you're willing to put yourself out there, you'll find ways to make money. It's all about the fundamentals of a work ethic, being able to come in and create value wherever you are. And if you're creating value by being a YouTube persona, or if you're creating value by coming into an established company and going remote, I don't care how you're doing it. If you keep those principles, it's going to look different for every person, but I think you'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So, just sort of figure out, what your skills are, how you can add value, and then, decide if you want to bring that to a company and how you can help other people do that, whether that would be going to another company or kind of freelancing, doing your own stuff. You just got to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. And some of our best van life friends right now, they have their own business. They sell tea on the road and they're able to hustle and make that work. And they have, money coming in from that. And other people we know, they're web designers. And it's all over the map, man. It really is all over the map. But if anyone's willing to work hard and create value, then you're in a good spot. You'll figure out a way to make it work.
I think one thing I've noticed too is we thought when we moved into the van that we were sacrificing something of our career. We were sacrificing maybe this couple of years that we were going to be on the road. where we weren't going to be making any progress in our career, working up the ladder and that kind of thing. And we found the complete opposite because like just a couple weeks ago, we were driving from Toronto to Spokane and stopped in this random coffee shop in Billings, talked to the owner of the coffee shop, and we might be working with him. And so those kinds of things that we never would meet this guy if we were still in San Antonio. And so that's one thing that we're learning is like when you are on the road, you're having conversations, you're meeting so many new people that we've actually found our careers are being kind of catapulted. There's so many new opportunities that we get to take advantage of. And so I would never, before I would have been really scared about that. And I know like a lot of people share that same kind of fear of like, you're supposed to work this 9 to 5, you're supposed to do your time. I don't think that's true at all. I think that you need to work hard. But I think that there's so many new opportunities for people who are on the road. So I wouldn't worry about it if I were going to be going on the road now again.
Aubry is definitely more on that track though. Like, I'm more of like a cynic, I guess. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but I would be the one that would be the like, no, you can't leave. You can't build your career. But honestly, like if you're willing to put yourself out there, there is nowhere to meet people like on the road. And especially since we're on YouTube as well, social media and is just a whole new thing, you know? So to anyone who's scared that they're not going to have opportunities when they get on the road, if you are willing to put yourself out there and meet people, you really will have more opportunities than you can imagine. You could never predict what they're going to be. Like it will blow your mind.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so cool that you guys have figured out how to, you know, blend the working full time with, you know, traveling full time. Cause I know there's different routes of going about it where some people they'll work for a bit, maybe like half the year or so, and then travel for half the year too, where you guys have just blended those two pretty nicely, it sounds. So that's great. Yeah. Cool. And that's so exciting that, you know, there's so much opportunity that it's possible, you know, that you can just make it happen. So cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's kind of transition into your van a bit and like what the build process was like. You said you had someone help you out a bit, and so just kind of walk me through that and what the process was like, timeline, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the reason we had someone help us out was just based on like the life situation we were in at the moment. We're really glad we did. He's a really good friend of ours. But I would say if someone has the capacity to build your van, it's the coolest learning experience. It's the most fun thing, like building your own van, you know? I mean, definitely reach into the community and get help. But if we would have had, like I was finishing up my job at that point, getting ready to get on the road. So it didn't really make a whole lot of sense at that point. And we were living in an apartment too, right? So we had some friends that we bought the van in November, brought it out to some friends, as like a mutual friend, a friend of a friend, that they knew someone who had this like plot of land, right, and this shed we could work, and then we would just drive up on the weekends and work on it. And again, you know, it was weird because we just had to kind of make it work. Like I was up there a lot more than Aubry was, you know, and you know, we started by doing kind of the basics, rip the whole thing out, put insulation in, put some birch paneling on top of that. And basically, I mean, we have wood all over this thing. So we have paneling basically all over it and floorboards. And wish we would have insulated a little better. You know, it's like, you're always going to shoe insulate it better. That's anyone who's looking to build a van, like you're never going to over insulate. But you know, we did all of that. We built out, we knew we wanted bikes and adventure stuff. So we built a pretty high bed so that we could fit everything beneath that and a lot of drawer space. That I think was a good call. I mean, it does limit you. Like it's takes up half your rig, right? We have a big old van. We have a 21-foot long van. So we got a lot of room to work with, but it takes up half your rig. So we did that, built the drawers, and you know, it evolved. Like I think that for someone who's about to do this, a big recommendation I would have is, you know, you're never going to draw up too many mock-ups, right? Like eventually you've got to do it, but you're not going to look for the van too long. You're not going to drop too many mock-ups. I think if we would do it again, we'd do a lot the same, and we would definitely work with the same people. Like we'd never do anything except that, but we would have taken more time looking at vans, and we would have taken more time drawing up plans, because, you know, once you buy the van, man, you bought it, you know. Like if you've got a bad van, you're going to have a bad van life. And you got a good one, you can always do the conversion different, you know?
Right.
So I think that we what like some advice we would say have for people who are just starting the build process is to really, really lay out your like top priorities. So one priority that we had that we didn't really take into account when we were designing our van was like hosting people. We would love to like, you know, go on camping trips with our friends and that kind of thing and just have people in our van, but there's no place to sit or lounge or even for us to just work or anything like that. And so we're actually thinking about remodeling to accommodate that a little bit. So, but then another priority that we had was storage. We wanted to have bikes inside of our van so that they wouldn't get stolen or anything like that. And that's a priority that we've never regretted, having so much storage and that kind of thing. So I think it really just depends on what your priorities are. It's such a small space that you really have to figure out what are my top 3 priorities and how am I going to make these, you know, the most important things. And you just have to give up the things that aren't as important.
Yeah. And the most badass thing about the whole thing is there's no right way to do it. I mean, that goes for remote work. It goes for van life. Like, that's the beauty. I mean, this is yours. No one has the same van as us, right? We've got the only van like this in the world. And we've got the only jobs like this in the world, right? And anyone else who's out here doing their own channel, doing their own thing, they've got the only rig like that in the entire world. And that's like kind of the beauty of it, is that you're going to make some mistakes and it's not going to be perfect. And that's the beauty. There's no right way to do it, you know? So I think it can sometimes be paralyzing for people who need to do all the research, need to do all, you know, there's kind of a nice little balance here. And I think that we as people tend to fall on the side of let's just do it now, right? Like impulsively just going for it. And I think there's other people that would fall on the side of, you know, doing all the research and writing up all the plans and never doing it because they don't want to get it wrong. And there's a balance there somewhere, right? But it's so cool to see these different builds and to see how, you know, the brilliant things people come up with and to see how people are making money on the road and living on the road. And just this whole movement is just evolving right in front of our eyes. I mean, the last year it has become something that it wasn't. It's become something totally different. And there's new vans we see every day, new people we see every day. So it's just, you know, it's cool to be a part of it. And I think everyone's build is different. Everyone's lifestyle is different out here. And that's, you know, there's no right way to do it. There's no template. That's kind of the beauty, you know?
Right. Cool. So, I mean, you mentioned like entertaining friends and stuff like that. Have you guys, I mean, you see, you meet a lot of people in coffee shops and stuff like that. And I assume through your YouTube channel and your Instagram and stuff too, but how do you connect with other people in vans and kind of meet and hang out with them?
Yeah, it's really social media.
Yeah, like 100%.
100% of the time, pretty much. We've run into a few people here or there who do live in vans, but I don't think we've ever really connected with people. It's more just the people that we kind of meet on social media. It's really, really, really cool because we're seeing this community and we're part of this community. And so we'll post on Instagram, you know, we just rolled into Vancouver, and I'll get 6 different messages from people who live there who are like, hey, I live in a van. This is the best place to park. Or, hey, I live in an apartment. Let me know if you want to use my shower, or, you know, just random things. Yeah. So I think that's the main place that we meet people is social media.
Like 95% of it. And it's kind of counterintuitive because it's sort of about being off the grid, but then the other side of it's like the backbone is honestly on social media. I mean, like, there's tons of dirt timers everywhere doing their own thing, and they're the coolest people ever. But for us, like everyone we meet is social media, and everyone's got each other's backs, and it's just the coolest place to connect with people. Right.
Cool. So, do you guys find that you need to, you enjoy like having other people like in the van? Do you guys like, I mean, cause it's just the two of you living in there full time, basically. Do you feel like you really need to have that time where you're with other people talking, you know, to people besides each other, or having alone time?
Yeah, we're going crazy in here.
We're both really social people. Christian is even more social than I am. And I think the main thing is we actually have friends all over the country, friends and family, actually. And so that's been really fun to just like go all over the place. Like, I think the main thing is we wish that, you know, maybe some of our siblings could go on a trip with us or something, and we could all pile in here and have dinner, or, you know, something like that. Like, I wish we had more of a capacity to do that. I wouldn't say that we're constantly wanting to host people in our van. It's a pretty tight space and everything, but I think that we just wish we had the capacity to do that.
Yeah.
And I find that we meet people all over the place.
Yeah.
Like,
when it comes to like socializing though, we like the interesting thing about being in the van is that your close friendships, you still see those good friends, like, and you make really intense relationships. Like the people that you spend time with, instead of just spending a dinner with, you'll spend like 3 days straight with, you know what I mean? So it's a whole different style of relationship. But then the flip side is you don't see those day-to-day people, right? Like we still have the intense relationships, but we don't see the local barista that we know every day, or we don't see like our neighbor at the next door apartment every day, right? Like all of our downtime is just us. So I think it is so valuable to be intentional about meeting people. Like some people, they don't really connect to other people on the road. I don't know how, man. Like honestly, I couldn't do that. Like for us, it's so key to just be constantly meeting new people and exploring new things, because, you know, even if we're hanging out with someone 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 3 days later after hanging out with them, we haven't seen a single person we know for 3 days, and we're basically in isolation. And a person like me who's so social is just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. You know, like I got to freaking see some people, you know?
Right. Yeah. I can totally imagine that. So that was like a kind of a concern I had, like, is just, you know, being isolated on the road and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that you guys have been able to meet new people. So, but I mean, you
add one thing to that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If that's a concern you have or other people have getting on the road, the flip side is that honestly, the relationships you do make are so unique and more intense. Like the people who meet each other on the road, there's an understanding you immediately have of each other and the problems you face and the adventures you have. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced.
And your priorities, not even just the problems, but like the fact, like some of our closest friends we've just recently met because they live in a van. We met them on social media, and we've now like gone on 2 different adventures with them. We're planning on going to Central America with them in February.
Yeah.
Like we like just literally just met them in October, and there was like an immediate understanding of like why we're here and what's important, like what about life is important and what we're sacrificing in order to have these adventures and meet these people and do these things and you know, be driven and ambitious and that kind of thing. And it was just, it's just a different kind of friendship than we've ever experienced when you just see each other, like, you know, once a week for dinner or something like that.
It's some of the most intense relationships, like deepest, most trusting, like all these people meeting on the road, dude. Like I would trust them, you know, with basically anything for no reason, right? Like I have no reason to trust them, but it's just like you have this understanding of the world that you share. And so it's a different sort of depth of relationship. And I think it's like way more special, like than just casually getting to know people in your life that the only reason you know each other is because you're in close proximity. No, this is like the people who share your core values and beliefs, and you're getting to, you know, spend real time with them. It's pretty amazing.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that, how you guys would just have that kind of shared bond almost from the get-go and things to talk about and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's super cool.
Most definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about sort of your like daily routine. You guys have a routine that you try to stick to, or is everything totally different? Do you just, you know, I mean, you always have to balance work and stuff. So do you have set hours? How does that all work?
Yeah, I feel like we plan, but only week to week. Like that's kind of I feel like what we usually do.
True.
So, I mean, a lot of it does kind of revolve around our work hours and when we need to work, but also the things that we want, like places we want to go and the things we want to do. So so I wouldn't say that we have necessarily like a daily routine. One thing that was kind of an interesting transition for us once we moved into the van was this like sudden realization that we're not on a vacation, even though it feels like we're on a vacation constantly. So we still have to do laundry. We still have to go to the grocery store. We still have to cook our meals.
And all that stuff is hard, man. That takes a freaking ton of time, you know?
Doing our laundry is so much more complicated now. And like random things like that. So I think those are the kinds of things that we've really had to start building into our routine. Yeah. So
that's so true. So it's I mean, it's almost impossible to have your morning routine, right? Because it's like, sure, you can wake up and do coffee, but like, at least for me, some mornings I have to wake up at 6:30 to do work. Some mornings our entire agenda for the day is like hike this mountain, literally, right? So it's like, those are the most different things ever, right? So how do you even compare? So I think the things that you do build in is like, we have a weekly routine of we have to clean the van. And we have this checklist every week and we have to clean all these things about the van, right? And if we miss that, we're in trouble. But on a day-to-day, like for instance, this last week, we basically spent it all with family. We spent it all working. It was a very intentional time. This next week coming up, we're going to Seattle. We're doing a meetup. We're meeting some other YouTubers in Portland. We're meeting some other YouTubers in the Redwoods. We're coming down to LA, and that's our goal. You know, we don't really care about work that week. We care about all these adventures we're going to have with these crazy people, and who, you know, maybe we're exhausted because we drove till 3 a.m. So if you expect yourself then to wake up at 7, you're kind of defeating the purpose. So I do think we have to have certain priorities we build in, or it's just so exhausting. Like if you don't build in the cleaning schedules, if you don't build in like what is our metric of success here, right? Like goals, I would say, in life, it's so easy to just think, okay, now we're free floating. But honestly, at least for us, that's exhausting. You know, you've got to build some sort of routine, but it just looks different. It's not the, you know, I'm going to do this at 9 a.m., do this at 10 a.m., do this at 11. It's like, no, this week I want to have these priorities met. This is the things I'm focusing on.
Well, I think it also depends on like who you are, what your priorities are, what you want your life to look like. We are kind of like, we can't ever stop working. We can't ever stop just like doing something, not even working, just doing something. We always want to be doing something, meeting people, talking to people, you know, do like working on projects or whatever
it is.
Yeah. So whatever it is. So that's kind of us. So we are always going to have things to get to and things to do. If you're not that kind of person, like a lot of people do van life just to escape that. Like they want to escape the schedule, and maybe they do have their morning routine where they meditate, they make their coffee.
Yeah, they're so much cooler than us. Yeah. We wish we could do that.
We wish we could. That's just kind of who we are. So I don't think that like if you move into a van, that's like immediately how your life is going to be like our life. That's just kind of what we've decided to do. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's kind of like the beauty of it. I mean, is like some people thrive on a strict, you know, routine and schedule and sticking to that stuff. But just the fact that you're in all these different places with different things to do means you have the option to do different stuff if you want.
Yeah,
right?
the ball's in your court, you know, man. Like, you know, I mean, we could freaking disappear for 3 months and go park in the same place and have the most simple lives that you could ever imagine. And that would be gangster, you know, or we could just like not take a breath and drive like crazy and have the most crazy adventures and work like crazy for 3 months. And it's all our choice, you know, like, I mean, we literally decided on a whim, we're going to do the Central America thing and we're going to do it for 2 months. And, you know, it's just like, you can do that now, you know, it's your life and it's your choice. No one else is telling you, the man isn't telling you how to live. It's you.
Right. You know? Stick it to the man.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all about that.
Wow. Sweet. That's so cool. So exciting.
Yeah.
So,
man.
So do you guys have any, so you've been doing it for about 6 months, full time, I guess, any, I mean, recommendations or, you know, things to like for places to stay, to find, you know, coffee shops, places to eat, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. We have a couple. So a quick and very important recommendation, like number one, most important, is for anyone looking to buy a vehicle and do this thing. The number one thing you've got to focus on is getting the right vehicle. And that might seem obvious, but it's so easy to get excited about the conversion and jump right into build. Don't even think about that until you have the right vehicle and be willing to spend like 6 months. So that's my biggest suggestion is people, they jump to step 2 when like nothing past the vehicle matters, right? If you've got the right vehicle, you can always improve it. You can always make renovations. So for anyone looking to do the van life, buy the right vehicle. But once you're out on the road, I would say that it depends on your personality, like Aubry was saying. Like for me, the thing I'm learning is like, you know, it's all up to me. It's okay to hustle like crazy and go hard, and it's okay to take breaks. You know, like you've got to just pace yourself and realize that this is all in your hands. There's no one else putting these expectations on you, because it was so exhausting for us at first, like she said, to feel like we were always on vacation and we always had to make the most of every moment, right? Like if we're at 30 miles from a national park, how could we not go do that hike? But then we also just met this crazy person. How can we not go have dinner with them? And it's just like, you're going to kill yourself because there's so much cool stuff to do, you know, like you'll never be able to do it. So I think, remember, the priority of this lifestyle is that it's yours. Like it's about travel. It's about adventure, but it's also really about putting your life back in your hands. You know, it's about, you get to make all your own choices of when you want to wake up and what you want to do. And so just keeping that in mind and not putting the pressure on yourself to be the coolest, to be the rock climber, surfer, when doing everything, you know, as like on an island in South America with your like perfect body is like, come on, like some people do that and that's cool, but like, you know, I mean, like, how much can you really do, you know? So I think just realizing that it's all about your life and there's nothing you have to do, you know, and you don't have to do it all. There's cool people doing that. There's cool people doing other stuff. You know what I mean?
I think practically, again, it depends on your priorities, but I would say buy a vehicle that can be stealthy, because it gives you so many more options. We've literally
isn't that the truth?
Never had anybody knock on our door when we're sleeping, because it doesn't look like anybody is living in here. And so we can pretty much park wherever it looks like a Sprinter van should be. So we park on the street all the time and have never had a problem with that. And then as far as like, I think you asked like finding good spots. Is that something?
Well, you just asked for recommendations.
Yeah. So finding, I don't know, like, when we go to a new city, one thing that we love doing, like I mentioned before, is like going to coffee shops and talking to the baristas and just kind of getting a feel for the city, what cool things there are to do and that kind of thing. So we love doing that. We also love just like tapping into the community. So even if you don't like we have a lot of like a fairly decent following on Instagram and YouTube, which makes it a lot easier for us to to get feedback from people. And, we ask for recommendations of what to do all the time. Yeah. So that's one thing. But I think too, every single person I've ever talked to on Instagram who lives in a van, even if they are like, have a super big following or whatever, they're super helpful. So if people for anybody who's listening to this, like, feel free to message us if you have 100%. Questions or anything. Like, message anybody and they'll most likely get back to you and give you a lot of really good advice and good information. So those would be
we're all in this together. And I think this is going to get a little bit hippie and meta and dumb, but like it's I think a lot of the people that are angry and frustrated and unhelpful in their life, it's just because they're not healthy. It's because they don't have the space emotionally and physically and everything to take care of themselves. And most of the people that are living this lifestyle out on the road, they're in a great place where they're like, they're healthy and excited to hang out with people. And that's how we feel. Like, I went from feeling like drained of energy, like a zombie, like I had no space for anyone else, to just feeling so energized. And now, like, I feel like we're there for other people too, right? Like, hit other people up. We're all a community. We're all a family in this, honestly, and I think that if you're nice to people, they'll be nice to you 99% of the time. Right. And if you're kind to people. So if we walk up and we walk to a new coffee shop and I'm interested in the coffee shop. And so we're going to start talking to the baristas and asking them about them. And all of a sudden, we talk for an hour and they're like, hey, you want to grab dinner later or a beer? And now, we have a new friend, right? Like, that wasn't too hard. And I think so many people are so nervous that other people are living their lives and don't have time for them. But honestly, like, if you're nice to people and kind, most of the time it pays you back and other people are kind to you. You know what I'm saying? So just carrying that with you and being willing to step out and engage with people is so key. And it's kind of been the foundation of most of the connections we've made and the relationships we've made, and probably my favorite thing about being on the road. Wow,
cool. Man, that's so good to hear. Because hearing you say that personally, that's probably something that I've struggled with a little bit too, is, just kind of that connecting with people and like feeling like, they don't care. They don't want to talk and stuff like that. Like, they're busy with their own stuff. So, that's just it's good to hear. It's just general good life advice, even for people not living in a van. Right.
It's so interesting because I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the cultures that we grew up in. So like, I grew up in California, and I feel like just the whole West Coast is very much like, I'll keep to my own business and you can do your own thing.
I'm living my cool life.
Yeah. It's not even that. It's like, I don't want to bother you, so I'll just like stay out of it. And I think one thing that I learned when I was living in Texas was just like, that whole culture is so open and very much like, I'll stop what I'm doing and listen to you. And now I'm finding that, like, everywhere we go, we meet people just like that. And I think people just need people to like ask them a question about themselves or about their city or about something they're passionate about. And they're going to like open up. They're going to want to talk to you. Like, most people, even if they put on this vibe of, not actually wanting to talk to anybody and they're too cool for school or whatever, I think that they actually really do want to talk. And absolutely. So I think that's one thing that like I've learned from Christian a lot is just talk to people. Like, they want to talk to you.
Yeah. And van life, just the adventures, man, they're cool, but adventuring gets old. Like, we're not done with it. We're just getting started and we can't wait to see Central America. But just living a life that you're basically living for yourself and you're just exploring all the time, doing crazy stuff, there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. But I don't think it's ultimately that fulfilling. I think the thing that we found is so fulfilling is like having these relationships and making these connections and having those unique experiences because of other people. And that's like, I mean, it's like the most important thing in life. What's more important than like, you know, being with other people and spending time with them and getting to know them. So I think that the van life for us, it's not like, without that, I think it would be a much different experience. And I think that this lifestyle creates the space for that, right? It creates like the space where like we can drop anything we want. I mean, just the other day we were in a coffee shop, and this, sorry, a little story to illustrate this point, but we were in this coffee shop in Seattle and Fremont, and we were just hanging out, you know, just having a good old time. And this random guy, this German guy, he was sitting across the table, looked real hipster and cool, you know. He walks up to us and he's like, can I take some pictures of you? We're like, yeah, sure. Like, that's kind of weird, but like, you know, we don't care, of course. So we're just sitting there and he starts snapping away. And it turns out he's this like world traveling photographer, and he does these big corporate shoots. But so we just started chatting, and he's like, do you guys want to do a shoot? And we're like, sure, why not? And he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? And we're like, I don't know, nothing. Do you want to go to Mount Rainier? And he's like, sure. So like we woke up and we went to breakfast together. And then we just drove out to Mount Rainier National Park, and we had the craziest time with this guy. He's one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. Had the coolest photo shoot ever. Like, that's been our entire Instagram has been that photo shoot for the last couple months. But honestly, like, it's like the most memorable experience. Like Christian
we had
was the coolest guy.
Such an interesting conversations with him. Like, we'll totally run into him. Like, he randomly messages us on Facebook every once in a while, just checking in. We literally spent like one day with him, but that's kind of what we're talking about. It's like you go deep with people.
You have this
really fast.
And you have this space to do it. Like, in our old lifestyle, we could have never, I don't know what day of the week it was, but, you know, Monday, and you can't ever just be like, yeah, let's just drop everything we have and drive to National Park, spend the entire day with this random stranger, cooking meals in our home for him and hanging out with him. And it was just the coolest experience. And I feel like repeatedly we keep having those experiences, and it seems surreal. Like, if I wasn't on the road, I wouldn't necessarily believe that. And before I was on the road, I wouldn't really believe that that's realistic, but it happens to everyone. Like, it is so real that these connections will happen and these crazy experiences will happen if you only put yourself out there. And that's been the thing that's blown me away, that I could have never expected. I expected the cool adventures. I expected the cool Instagram and the cool time with my wife and feeling great. But I would have never imagined that we would meet so many incredible people that already, you know, just getting started. It's the craziest thing, man.
Right on. Yeah, that's so fun and exciting to hear. That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to jump back real quick to something a little more technical, about you guys talked about how important it is to find the right vehicle right from the get-go. What were some of the, like, I mean, are you just speaking about like mechanically and stuff like that? Like, you want a solid foundation to build on?
Exactly, mechanically. I mean, you've got to, on our opinion, Sprinter is the best, right? Like, that's what we would say. If someone was like, what vehicle should I buy? We would say Sprinter. Because, you know, if you can't stand up in your home, it's never going to feel like a home. So for us, I think that what style you get's key. Also, we can sell, like, we've got as big of a vehicle as possible that you could still easily get around, right? Like, we can easily get around cities. We can easily get up a mountain. No big deal, right? We have a car. But it's also the max amount of space for our living. So I think that what sort of vehicle you buy is important. But I think people do that research. What I was talking about is more mechanical. Like, you need to check out every deal on there. You need to be willing to spend 3 months going to every random Craigslist listing, right? Like, you're very rarely going to take too much time to buy the right vehicle, whereas it's very easy. And what I feel like we actually did, probably the only, what I would call a mistake, it's not a mistake I would like to correct, right? It's a mistake we learned from. But the only thing that I think was like, I would like other people to avoid was we bought too fast. We got caught up in the excitement of it, and we had the money, and we just kind of dropped it on a really good deal. We only spent
really bad vehicle.
Yeah, but a really bad vehicle. So we paid like nothing for this vehicle. We were probably $10,000 under the market value for usual. So it was like, duh, let's do this. But it wasn't running, and it had a different problem than we thought. And we ended up having to replace the engine, right? So we didn't come out financially ahead because we were a little bit impulsive. And it, you know, it's all good. Like, it all ended up great, but it definitely created stress, and it definitely, it could have been avoided if we were a little bit more patient and if we were willing to just wait. And so,
another thing too is like a lot of people you can find pretty good deals on vehicles over 200,000 miles, and Sprinters, we've heard, like, they're just getting started at 100,000 miles, and they'll go to like 400. Engine, so you still have capacity, but I think it really just depends on, you know, is this something that you want to do for a while, or is this just kind of a summer thing? If it's just a summer thing, then go with the cheaper vehicle that has more miles on it. Right. If this is something you really want to do for a while and have this vehicle around for a while, or you really want to sell it at a good value, then I would say shell out, like wait until you have enough money to buy the best vehicle possible with the least amount of miles.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, that helps a lot. That's a good tip that I feel like could really help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a cool, like you see these people that'll buy a brand new 2017 Mercedes Sprinter and have it shipped over from Germany. And I think that's like, it's kind of a cool little sign that this movement is not about money. Like there's poor people doing this and there's rich people doing this, honestly. There's people that have a hell of a lot less than us and a hell of a lot more than us. Mm-hmm. And so that's cool. But 99% of the people that are doing this, including ourselves, could never, like, for the next decade, just, you know,
afford.
I'm just going to casually buy a brand new off-the-line Mercedes vehicle. It's just not going to happen. So I think finding the balance of, like, you know, you've got to be willing to spend on the car. But how much is too much and overkill? And there's no good answer there. But that question is the most important question because you're buying a home. Like, this isn't just a car purchase. This is like, you know, if there's something wrong with your vehicle, it's going to be wrong with your home. And it's going to, you know, it's every single night that you sleep, it's going to affect you. You know what I'm saying? Every place that you park. And so, I don't know. I just, there have been people that we know that they go for the sex appeal of it and they go for the cool Vanagon and everything like that. And I don't know why they do that, man. Like, it breaks time. You can't really adventure. You can't really go anywhere. You get great Instagram pictures, but that's just a different lifestyle. You know, if you really want to live this, and like for us, we're not trying to just do this for a little while, then go live somewhere for 3 months. And, you know, this is our life, man. This is everything we own right here, you know? So buying the right vehicle, there's nothing more important than that.
And us too, I get a lot of questions about like expectations as far as what costs you should be looking for, what price point you should be looking for. If you're going to do it similar to us, where you're going to find maybe like an 07, 08, 09 used vehicle, I would say expect anywhere from like $10,000 to $15,000.
I would say the exact same thing, 10 to 15 grand. And if you're paying well less than 10, not that you shouldn't buy, but we paid $5,500 for ours. So it's like, you know, there's a reason that we only got ours for just over $5,000, right? It wasn't a spanking vehicle. So 10 to 15 grand. And again, the conversion only cost us, you know, like 8,000 or something, right? Like we didn't pay for a banging setup, great solar setup, great appliances. I mean, we're living large here.
Wow.
But you know, it only costs us like $8,000 for all the wood, everything. Even we paid our buddy to help us out, right? And that includes that. So remember that most of your cost is going to be your vehicle, and it's the most important thing. And it might feel like, you know, it's this 8-step process. Step 1 is vehicle. Step 2 is insulation. No, it's a 2-step process. Step 1 is the vehicle. That's the important one. And step 2 is everything else. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, cool. Okay, so I got a question. This is kind of a cop-out question because I'm going to ask you to ask your own question to yourself. But so you guys have, you know, you got quite a bit of following, and sounds like people ask you for advice a lot. So what is the question that you guys get the most? And then if you could answer that question for me.
Yeah. Oof.
I think we already did. It's how we make money on the road.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can try to think of like another question is, where do you park? And that's an easy one. That isn't going to be a problem. You know, if you're wondering where to park, that you'll figure that out so easy. And it's not, you know, we were really worried about that before getting on the road. There's stuff like, where do you shower? And I'd say all those little questions, you'll figure them out, you know? Going back to how you make money on the road, I mean, that's how we do it. Again, I think that it's going to be different for every person. I'd say a big one that I would like to answer is basically like, people ask if it's safe, and especially single travelers. And we would never speak for a single traveler because we're not that, but we have never once felt endangered on the road. And we've been around some pretty interesting people. And we've been around, I will say this, like people that aren't living this lifestyle by choice. And yet we're all the same. And those, you know, you create an interesting community and you break down barriers with people who are on the streets, not by choice, you know, and it creates this interesting dynamic where all of a sudden those people are a lot less scary. You know, you're figuring out where the hell to pee and how you're going to do your laundry too. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you're kind of all in this together. So I'd say a big one being, you know, what are the dangers of it? I think that it's a lot less dangerous than you would think, you know, but I don't know. Aubry, do you have any other big questions we're asked?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of questions. I mean, a lot of them are really technical. Like a lot of them are like, how do you do this, winter thing? Or what do you do for your tires? Or like random things like that. I would say if you have technical questions like that, like ask people. Like you probably follow people on Instagram or YouTube or whatever. Ask people. Like they're totally welcoming and like, ready to answer any questions. I
have one more. So one, and this is just, it's less van life, more just travel. People ask us all the time how we met, because I think people want to meet a life partner that was willing to do this with them. And obviously, like, I would never say there's like one right person for you or whatever, but there's the way that we met is doing the things that we love. And I think if people want to make the right friends and they want to build these communities and they want to meet life partners and stuff, like obviously you can't ever plan that kind of stuff. But the fact that we were doing what we loved put all those things in our life and put those opportunities out there for us. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
and introduced us to
each other and to other people. So I don't know,
just do it.
Just do it, baby. Yeah.
Man, so cool. Cool. Thanks so much, guys. So where can people, if they have questions to ask you guys, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you guys?
Yeah, so we have two main places. We're on YouTube at Minimal Millennials. So if you just search us, you can find us there. And then we're on Instagram as well. It's at MNML Millennials.
So it's the word minimal, but like done really minimalistically.
Without the vowel.
Yeah, but Minimal Millennials.
And Instagram is the main place that people can message us and talk to us. I'm constantly in conversations with people. I love talking to everybody. So
she's obsessed.
So those are the places.
If you message us on Instagram, you'll get a very excited Aubry that people love talking. If you comment on YouTube, I'll probably comment back something very short. So just those are the options.
Wow, cool. Well, I mean, Aubry, Christian, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys being on, and you guys are just so fun and exciting and inspiring with the way you guys have done this and figured it out. So appreciate it so much. Thank you guys.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having us.
So there is episode 2 for you. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you being here and listening to that. Thank you to Aubry and Christian again for joining me and sharing all that info. Again, be sure to check them out and all their stuff on Instagram and everything. They're super helpful. I would definitely take them up on their offer to get some help from them. Ask them any questions you have. They're just super nice people, as you can tell from this podcast. So thanks again to those guys. And I just wanted to mention again that we have you can check us out on our website at campersandvansgettingcoffee.com. On there, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff where you can check us out. And I'd super appreciate if you could leave a comment for this podcast, rating and review. That would be great. Super helps me out and the show out. So thanks again for listening, guys, and see you in episode 3. Bye.